as it's 9:30, Zico, and we're all on a tighter schedule as usual. I would say just fire ahead. I will allow people in. You have the option to screen share, and you also have the only thing you should be doing if you're doing the video is the setting the quality for video sharing. And
Okay, and
if
that's
you
the
start sharing.
settings. That's in the preferences.
If you share your screen, then it will be in the top at the top right at the three black dots. You put it,
Okay.
open it up. So
Sweet.
for everybody else as well, just if you have any questions during the chat, just fire them during the call, fire them away in the chat. I will be happy to fire them at the coaches, as we are on a pretty tight schedule today for coaches leaving for practices and games all around the world. We'll be doing it in a very, very strict schedule. So first up, we have Coach Zico. After that, we have Coach Richard. And after that, we have Coach Connor closing us off for today. I would say, Coach Zico, it's all yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me. I won't prolong that too long because, of course, that always is the part that I skip in the so I'll get straight into it. Seems with time pressure. Slideshow. There we go. So my topic, obviously, we talked about was around spacing. This is probably something that's on my mind watching New Zealand basketball a little bit, one in preparation for our season next year, and also the women's competition. And I was helping one of the players in that. And coronavirus probably has impacted. There was less opportunity to practice. There was lower caliber players. There were no foreign players, and some of the spacing was pretty bad. So that's something I've certainly been thinking about. And then Mike and I were talking about, I guess, more application to youth basketball. So there's some pro clips in here, but tried to use youth clips because obviously it's relatable. I know there'll be some people who coach pro listening, but there'll also be lots of people who coach youth, and maybe that increases the relatability for them. And kind of just quickly hitting on these things. This certainly won't be comprehensive with obviously the time frame, but hopefully some food for thought. So a few ideas on conceptualizing static spacing. So what we're not talking about here is this, the cuts and the slides that you'd see with like a Fenerbahce or something like that. It's, I 100% agree with it. It's just beyond the scope of at least these initial slides. And I'd thought about this idea a few years ago of kind of like if you were at a bird's eye view, our little eagle friend there in the corner looking down at the court, and you drew a line around all your offensive players, what kind of blob would you see? Would it be a big blob? Would it be a little blob? Obviously, it would be a moving blob as the players moved. And apparently, unbeknown to me, there's a mathematical thing that actually defines that called convex hull. And so Stephen Shea in his Basketball Analytics book talks about that a bit more and has formulas where you can actually continually calculate the convex hull of your offense. And then they kind of found correlations between the bigger the convex hull, the better the points per possession. And I think they used, it was either 2013 or 14 NBA finals, which obviously are ones where we really see some amazing spacing. It's basically where those Spurs tribute videos come from. So obviously on the left, you see, very poor spacing. And the question in the corner there is something I asked the young lady who I was helping with her team, and just they would run pick and roll and all the wings would be on the wings. I was like, so if you guys think there's an outbreak in the corners or something, because it's like no one will go there. And so you have this tiny area of spacing. And then the middle one's maybe something more you would see with like a Hapoel Jerusalem, where they play two interior oriented bigs. And then on the third frame, maybe a bit more modern, a shape pick and roll. And you can see the relative size of the court that is being used. And one way I think that sometimes this can be kind of outlined to say like under 13 players is to in fact set the boundary lines on the court very small. So you might come along and say, okay, the free throw line extended to the midline, that's the court lines, you have to stay on there. And then of course they're like, well, there's no space. And then you can potentially slowly open up the court spacing, and just to kind of get them that feel of, okay, you guys are all looking at me like I'm an idiot. putting you in this little box. That's how you guys are spacing the floor. So when I'm looking at you like you idiots for how you're spacing the floor, now you understand how crazy it is, and hopefully they understand to space out more. Another one I've used a little bit for conceptualizing static spacing is the medieval torture rack. So simple history. Thank you for the animation. And of course, this is something where we're trying to pull someone apart. So some of the functional spacing here, and what makes it functional spacing. First, talking horizontal gravity, so spreading out across the court. Obviously, the location you stand in, and we're talking about that convex hull that we just talked about, and then also the expected shot value of where you stand. So, for example, standing behind the 3-point line increases your expected shot value rather than standing at 20 feet. And then a whole bunch of other things like your readiness to shoot. You know, obviously, one, this creates the perception of gravity. They look like they're ready to shoot. The defender gets a little bit more nervous and plays a little bit closer. The willingness to shoot. You know, we all know the player that everyone knows they don't really want to shoot. You can help. They're not really looking to shoot it. The speed of release. Obviously, the quicker I can get out of my hands without rushing, the defense has to stay a little bit closer. I mean, it's not just Duncan Robinson's amazing accuracy that makes him have such high gravity. We probably all remember that one that he caught in the left corner in the finals and just caught it high and fired, which is basically another technical skill. It's not his normal shot. But when he can get out of his hands like that, when Klay Thompson can get it out of his hands like he can when he's healthy, obviously you have to stay so close. And then the accuracy, you know, if they can make shots at a high rate. And then, you know, a little old saying now probably, but if they're not close enough to touch the ball, they're not there at all. Of course, Rick Talbot used to do some really good videos where he'd get players on and interview them. And I think this can be trained. You know, this is your kind of like live shooting drills against closeouts. And then I think the critical 2 points that go with being able to implement this for a player is one, that they have a habitually fast speed of release. If they're rushing, then the defenders impact the ball. But if their normal shot is to be a quick speed of release and they're not rushing, then, you know, then that's great. And then it's about their eyes, you know, watching that ball into their hands as they make the reception, and then their eyes to the target, and basically having the discipline to keep them there in that catch and shoot, not kind of having a half peek at the defense. And then I think through experiential learning, they get very good at being able to judge, you know, and having a feel for, is this person close enough to impact the ball or not? And they really start to work out. This is not necessarily a permission to just jack stuff all over the place. They have to show some discretion about it. But if you can get players that, you know, are not impacted by a short closeout, like they're really forcing people to actually make genuine, impactful closeouts where they would touch the ball as it comes up from its pocket to release, then obviously that expands the defense as well. So the idea being, in many ways, of the medieval torture rack is just to play, you know, if you've got the location, so let's say wing slot corner, so they're very spread out, they're ready to shoot, they're willing shooters, they're fast release, and they're accurate shooters, you know, and we're really starting to be spread. So if I'm a take two defender, I've got, you know, torture rack on this arm, torture rack on this arm, and I'm getting really pulled in both ways. And then for the passer, it's basically you throw it opposite. So if the pressure causes me to shift this way, then you throw it opposite. So this could also be on, say, like a screen dive type situation where we've got like a middle pick and roll, big diving hard down the middle, backside corner shooter. Someone's marking that backside corner shooter. They feel the pressure of the expected shot value. And we'll talk about the vertical gravity of that roller going towards the rim. So that's pulling them in. They feel the pressure of the shooter going out. And then obviously in basketball, they won't get ripped in half as they would have with our poor friend on the right, but they will feel that pressure, and it will eventually cause them to either shift in or shift out. And then the passer just throws the opposite their shift. In terms of vertical gravity, so I think of this as being, and you'll see in some of the little clips that I'll show in a second, Clint Capella being a good example of someone who has vertical gravity. His location, you know, he's going to play an expected value in terms of close enough to get dunks and layups. So there's a very high point yields, as opposed to a player that kind of plays in the mid post or higher, actually compressing the spacing. And also if they catch it there, those are like really difficult little touch shots that yield very low expected point values on traditional post ups, as opposed to on the rim deep finishes. Lane Wilson he's with Philadelphia 76ers, had a presentation all on this concept earlier. If someone wanted to seek it out, it was pretty good about playing in the low zone and where not to get your bigs and the timing of where they have to be there. And then their catch radius, so like how many places can they catch this ball? Obviously this speaks to length, it speaks to athleticism, it speaks to, I guess, a little bit of coordination on the perimeters of their catch radius, like are they able to get a hand on it versus no, he can still catch that, control it, and come to a finish. So how high is the pass you can catch? And therefore, how close does your defender have to be to you to interfere with it and deflect it or interfere with your jump? And you see, say, like Harden coming down on pick and roll with Capella, obviously it's a couple of years ago now, and almost no one could play the Harden finish and the Capella lob. And Anthony Davis was one of the few that could be there and then get back and get the tip on the lob pass. But he's Anthony Davis. So if you don't have him in your roster, this is a problematic thing to deal with. And then obviously the quality of finishing. I think a thing that can help you work on things like catch radius and like increasing the radius of your passing, your finishing as well, that I've found is like, even I call it like snow angels, but there's the wall dribble. So it's an old Magic Johnson drill where you dribble against the wall. So you're working against gravity. It's great for your hand and finger strength. It's good little coordination and ball handling. But then, you know, instead of just doing it like right here where it's nice and comfortable, is, you know, the next progression in some ways extended and then out to the 45. And then I call this one crucifix. You can do it with 2 balls at once. I normally get them to do it with 1 foot. So they're also activating their core and working on their balance and proprioception. Crucifix is very, very hard. This probably ties in with the medieval torture rack, but they can also be working on snow angels. So can they dribble, 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 dribble? And then they can do it like close to the wall, and then they can do a slight step back. So now they're kind of out extended doing these things. But the idea is to try to build ball handling comfort in the orb. So you don't want to only be able to pass or finish from this little area because it's easy to defend. You want the whole extent of your wingspan, whatever your genetic gifts have allowed it to be. But so can you get to where you can make like an extended hook pass or extended finishes and things like that. So it's a warm-up drill, it's a proprioception drill, it's a core activation drill, but also a ball handling drill, a passing, a finishing drill as well. So maybe that is of use. I won't probably pause and stop because I've seen when people try to do it with these ones, it becomes crazy, but I think you guys will all get the point. So the first couple are basically where Capella's in a good dunker spot. It's a warning sign, his ability to catch lobs and finishes. So it keeps his defenders a little bit close, and it allows Harden to get basically into his dunk before they come off Capella and get into the challenge. They arrive too late. And then you'll see his ability to throw lobs on it, where one, it's unable to be tipped by his own defender who's played Harden and tried to recover, and he can't get a hand to the ball because Harden's been able to throw it on a trajectory so high that they can't tip it. It also, the high catch means that the second rotation, the crack back, the crash down, V back for victory, whatever you call it, that person can't get back and impact the pass because it's too high court. And then you'll see the application and pick and roll plays. So hopefully I can just basically let it play and talk. So
conference final in astonishment here.
So you see obviously McGee arriving late. On this one, you can see Durant pretty attached to Capella on the dunker. And of course, one of the things that NBA teams tend to do, I think this one's a little bit less so, but you see the little hash mark. You'll see Capella plays his dunkers out here more. I think 2 primary reasons. One, to break the 2.9, which obviously is not relevant in FIBA, so that they can't be within arm's reach and in the paint. But the other one is just because it allows him to basically have a little run up and get his steps right. I mean, if you guys are familiar with Snoop Dogg doing a commentary on the Billy Goat terrorizing the village, it's got to get his steps right. It's worth watching if you search it up, and, you know, get his steps right so he can catch a higher lob versus being more of a static, you know. And everyone, obviously, if they did vertical jump test and physical education or whatever, if you were allowed to run up, you'd be happy because you're going to beat your friends with amazing scores. So that playing off in that dunker helps that. And you see how low Steve has to be here because he's been pulled behind. So that gravity pulling him back, he has to play low, therefore he's late on the contest. You know, in this instance, it's on an off-ball play that makes him late. This one here now, you'll see obviously the gravity of that and the catch. You know, I mean, obviously how high is catch radius? We might not all have people who can replicate this, but we have found with the youth teams that still throwing lobs has been really beneficial. Even with some of the young ladies who train with us and obviously don't have the same vertical athleticism, but the lobs are still very, very beneficial. And obviously this means there's no way it can be tipped, but also the second rotation help has no chance of making a play on this basketball. The highest turnover passes are the dish passes. So basically you put little bounce passes in here. If there's second rotation help, it's turnover time, deflection time, jump ball time. It's just difficult. So as long as you have players who can make high catch, high finish, the lobs tend to be higher percentage in terms of minimizing turnovers. You see it here off isolation. You can really see how the 17 Garrett Temple can't get down in time to make an impact on the basketball. This one here, obviously Gobert having to stay with Capella late. Jay Crowder can't get down to impact it on the crash down pick and roll. Valanciunas, you know, that pass is just thrown at too high a trajectory because the catch radius of Capella. Valanciunas can't clip it. And similar here, Gobert makes that one little step to address Harden coming off the smash action handoff, and that's enough. It's up in the air. He can't make a play on that basketball. Another one, little bit leveraging static spacing. So we've talked about static spacing, corners, you know, the big convex area. Obviously, this is very basic and just kind of, I guess, appetizers. So there's obviously a term, I think, Ryan, obviously some of you would have heard him use it in the very first of this series of Zoom calls that Mike organized, which is awesome he does. And they talk about make the early easy pass. Now they're specifically talking about wing to middle pick and roll. And as soon as you get nail help coming off that pick and roll, they don't try to split it off the wing pick and roll. The wing pick and roll is secondary of importance. They get something very juicy, they will terminate. But if not, they're really just happy to get that nail help, loosen the middle pick and roll, kick it to the top and get a really good two-hit combo where the first hit loosens the defense, compromises coverages, prevents aggressive coverages, and then coming back to the top and getting that second pick and roll with either compromised coverage, or if they want to show, the show is pretty much out because they probably had to help on that initial first hit of the combo. And so I thought, well, a little acronym is MEEP for that. And it's a little bit easier to say to your players if we're talking about coaching on the run than make the early easy pass, which is a bit of a tongue twister. And half the time you're going to make the easy early pass, early easy. Which one is it? Oh, shit, don't know. And so it's just easier to have that discussion and talk about meep. So you got the Roadrunner there. And believe me, if this guy says MEEPs is important, I do believe he had an undefeated record for his career. So this guy's a winner, and his advice is probably very, very underpinned by a long record of success. So make the early easy pass. And before I'd heard Ryan say that, I always talked about pass from space, pass from space. So I've just combined those two things. And priority one is kickouts. This creates high efficiency catch and shoot threes, and it reduces turnovers because the receptions are made in space, not in congestion. If you try to prioritize the dish and the lob, this is going to be in congestion. And this just comes back down to, and this really probably doesn't really matter about what level of basketball we're talking. There'll be some rare exceptions, like maybe when Steve Nash is driving, but the defense is going to collapse. You know, everything within their basketball experience tells them they have to protect the rim. This is true at professional level. It's true at youth level. It's even more true at youth level. And they're coming in to protect the rim. So if your priority is the dish, they're going to be crashing in, tip, 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 ball bounce. There is some places where the little pocket pass is open, especially say like wing pick and roll, where you don't have to account for backside help because there's no one in the corner. But if we're playing in the middle and there's backside help and you try to pocket pass, dish it, especially late window, invariably that's running into a deflection. Early window where they're going to receive it outside the key, it's a little bit more there. Halpel Jerusalem playing with an interior big and no one on the 45, the early window pocket pass is a little bit more open because that area along the free throw line extended is reserved for just the pick and roll and the corners and the dunker spot, so it's open. But in general, especially if you're playing 4 out, the lob. Priority one is kickouts. This applies on drives, dependent triggers, so where you've got 2 or more players working together, and especially versus conservative coverage. And so A little video of this. Now, this is all from youth level. So these players are between 12 and turning 15, so relatively young. And they're not perfect. And you'll certainly see in these clips that there's still things where you're, okay, that's not Fenerbahce level of execution, but hopefully you can see the progression and the beginning point of being able to play that way. So we'll go through a few. So this first one is a couple of things I really like about this right here immediately, which shows some intelligence. You'll see shot clock here is at 8.7, so you don't need to see what happened before. And I love the awareness, you know, both the kid with the ball and the pick and roll, he's using the pivot as a chance to check the shot clock at the far end. But I also love the fact you can see the developing screener also looking to check the shot clock. And this is because we wouldn't want him to bring the pick and roll under 7-6, because they're just going to give them the switch. We would rather him stay out and let them play the isolation rather than bring the late switch and you get a shot clock violation. And I think this is for, you know, a young man who's 13, 14 to have the presence of mind as he's coming into this pick and roll to have a look at the shot clock and see, should I be setting it? Pretty cool on his part. Obviously the spacing pretty good. I mean, if you look at that convex area, this kid here could be slightly more towards the corner. Kid in the corner's off screen because he's so good in being in the corner. And you can see this lifted G League style wing. You know, really, we've got the defense 1 foot outside the 3-point line. This kid here is a good shooter, so he has some gravity because of his accuracy and willingness and all those other things we talked about before. The other thing I like about this spot is the two places that they might need to move to. There's the slide to the corner. If this was, say, like a push coverage now and you had to morph the spacing where you'd cut the corner and slide him to the corner to remove the shrink help, it's a straight line. And then if this goes pick and roll coming this way, roller, not a high tag, low tag, he drops to take 2 and we get that fill behind to separate the take 2 defender that Ryan was promoting in his video. This is also basically a straight line to the top, so the angles become very, very good from this position. You're not having to kind of curve or run backwards. You kind of make a more straight line. It's a little bit more easier face up. And especially at youth level, where they may not be JC Carroll, getting all these little things right, like to make the angles easy for them, really helps the shooting percentages. Once you got JJ Redick, maybe you can say, but even then, I mean, if he shoots 90% instead of 81, you'll be very happy. So making it easier for them is still valuable. We get the reject on the pick and roll. And the thing I like you see here is this is that meep. So all that opposition, who is a very athletic team, probably man for man should beat us, but they don't. You can see 4 of them, they're all sprinting for the block. They've seen the little guy going for the rim and they're all collapsing for the block. And then obviously this becomes a meep left-hand hook pass for a righty. You know, there's a lot of technical skill here. Hits a corner, the shot's missed, but it's a great creation of a shot. This one here is a more simple drive left-hand hook from space. You'll see they don't allow the defense to get close to the ball. And now you'll see an example from a more higher level, you know, and hopefully you'll see the similarity. This is Georgia playing Israel from the World Cup qualifiers. And, you know, okay, maybe he does have a layup or a dunk, but this is kind of the idea of make the early, easy pass from space. Don't wait till you're right in the help and you're having to do some kind of crazy wraparound and they're getting deflections and the pass isn't a strike bullet pass to the pocket. It's kind of bobbling out there or bouncing and it's just not good. By throwing from space, you basically eliminate the defense. They can't touch the ball. And now you can throw bullet strikes and hit pockets for catch and shoot. So you can see as these 2 defenders start to come, which when we play it, you'll see as these 2 defenders start to come on off the corner, he doesn't let them get close to the ball. He throws it. And what passing from space creates is momentum attacks, that as they're moving in to help, the ball goes past them and you wrong foot them. Whereas if you throw it late, they make their way in, they rebalance, and now they're starting to load on the inside foot to close back out when you make the pass. So you don't get that momentum attack. You'll see, bang, they're coming in, ball going out, catch and shoot 3. This one here, you know, really good early hook pass and a little roadblock screen down on the baseline. This position here gets a bit messed up in terms of the kid top locks the stagger, and the execution is not great. The reason I left that part in is what I'd like to point out is how the corner defenders in youth basketball, when it gets messy, I mean, maybe it's better in Europe, but tend to lift off and people start thinking, oh, hang on, we're in trouble. I got to get a catch here. And I really like the way that they just don't suffocate their own teammates. The corners trust their teammates. They stay down. They maintain the spacing, the convex hull. And okay, eventually they get to a shape pick and roll, late shot clock, and they're in perfect shape pick and roll spacing. We get the reject that we emphasize, the early kick out, and obviously then the extra. I think these are all misses, but we actually did win this game. We didn't miss every shot. This is earlier. So this is basically the first day of basketball coming back from lockdown, and we'd had maybe a little bit of practice, and then the country got to the point where you could go and play other teams. So this is the first day of basketball. And so this very first clip you'll see is a terrible pass. But what I'm wanting to show you is in this singular game, this kid's progression of learning. So this team, little team, was quite tough team, switched everything. And we hadn't really encountered that yet. And as I said, obviously, this is the first day of games. So you'll see here, not only do they switch, but they're also extreme. They're not a big team, extremely help oriented, low release point, and not understanding that this is going to just lead to an absolute crowd. Now, the thing that's really good about this kid, number 6, is you'll notice he's thrown a shit pass and he's already pointing to the bench. He knows he's probably is getting told kick out, kick out. But the fact that he's recognizing it basically in the moment, okay, it's not as good as making the right pass, but it's really good that he's making the acknowledgement. And so same game later in the game. Now, okay, bang, they're collapsing. He finds the kick out, wide open shot. And once again, here's shape pick and roll. They're collapsing, finds the kick out. So, you know, obviously making those kick outs is priority 1, but and now he's acknowledging the bench and the coaching staff, like basically thank you for your help of reminding to make kick outs. So the little progression in the game. This is more to about 6 weeks later. Press break, obviously trying to control the LSQ situation here. Back to the middle. This is not a great roll, and there's not a great fill behind here, but just the composure, back to the middle, back to the pick and roll ball handler, no one off on a tangent trying to do their own thing, trusting the target player, gets a good little jail there and collapse, finds a kickback. Now, he'd be better if he had made that pass a bit easier with a fill behind. As I said, they're not perfect yet. Kid in the left corner recognizes every fill behind. This kid here still misses them at times, but little ones like that. So hopefully that's try to go fast to not cannibalize any time. Basic pick and roll spacing. So this is obviously for pro basketball is true, but for youth basketball as well. Before running the pick and roll, can we answer the 2 following questions? Is there an empty exit zone for the ball handler to dribble off into? So is there like big space for them to dribble off into? Or are they going to run straight into congestion? And is there empty roll pathway between the screener and the rim? And if those 2 things are both yes, then you can run your pick and roll. If the answer to one of those is no, then we need to adapt the spacing. If the exit zone is compressed, there's 2 things. Maybe you need to do a really good reject and have the screener chase so that you've opened the exit zone, or maybe we need a cut and slide, a movement of the off-ball players to open that exit zone, probably to get the 45 to slide to the corner and the corner to cut baseline to baseline, remove the shrink help. In terms of the empty roll pathway, obviously if you're running a Spain or a stat pick and roll, this is an exception, but we're talking a normal pick and roll. Then obviously you want, if it's spread, then everyone's completely outside the 3-point line. If it's 3 around 2, at least they're down the weak side opposite the pick and roll. So you still have the dive path as you'd see with Halpool Jerusalem. And then there's paired pick and roll spacings. There's lots of them. I've just put a diagram for the most common. So middle pick and roll pairs with shape pick and roll. So if you run a middle pick and roll and you either twist because they went under or you rescreen because you didn't have any advantage, you're really trying to downhill the under and then thinking about rejecting the twist and then as the rescreen comes, you would have expanded the exit zone, because the initial middle pick and roll would have an exit zone. Say if I was running it to my right, my exit zone is to my right, and there'll be congestion on the wing and the corner behind me. And so if they go under and I don't really take my dribble across and then just twist on the spot, I'm going to run straight into a compressed exit zone with that wing. But if I really hard downhill the under, and if I get penetration, brilliant. If I don't, then I'm bouncing out, trying to reject the twist. The screen's coming back in, and now I'm in shake pick and roll. And now I've got a big exit zone. So middle becomes shake, and exactly in reverse, shake becomes middle. So if I run shake pick and roll and they under or no advantage rescreen, now I'm trying to reject that, and now I'm into a middle pick and roll. So hopefully conceptualizing the two has been appearing. And I found when you explain that, the kid understands middle, they understand shake, and they understand that one becomes the other if they get a twist or a rescreen. That really helps them with the understanding of their spacing and their reads. And so like step up is paired with isolated wing pick and roll, and so on and so on. And just to finish the pedagogy, you know, and people, obviously there's every thought in the world and differing in many ways to make it work. A few thoughts: what you permit, you promote. I think that's one of the most important statements in coaching. And so, for example, if you're going to let them stand on the wing when they should be in the corner, if you permit it, you promote it. They'll do it a lot. So, you know, you have to be accountability. You can care for who you are now, or the coach can care for who they are now, or they can care for who they could be. And you have to find a balance between those two things in your coaching. Like, you know, do you care about their disappointment at missing the shot now? Maybe if it was a high quality shot and they just missed it, and shoot the next one, that was a great shot. But if it was a bullshit step back over 3 people, then yeah, they might be disappointed they missed, but you probably really need to care for who they could be. So we're going to address the shot selection, because we're not permitting that. Great players want to be told the truth is the end of a Doc Rivers quote. And then I think you want accountability with dignity. So, you know, I think obviously people think the stick is a bit old school. We're not saying you have to swear at them or scream at them or belittle them, you know, but like they need to be held to account, but you can still do it with dignity for that player. And then, you know, on the run, so this is where obviously having those verbal cues can be really helpful. Hey, meep, those type of things. This can be at practice and in games. Kickouts, kickouts, kickouts. And you can see the young man acknowledging those communications from the bench and the clips. Stopping, I mean, at practice, like I think Sergio Scarillo was talking about the other day, 2 things, you know, one of them is passing. So for me, if someone tries to basically shoot on 2 people, we're stopping practice. This is not something that we're going to be cool with. We're going to make a big deal of this. You know, you've done your job. You're a good player. You've drawn 2 people. You make the pass from space. We're trying to generate open catch and shoot threes and layups, not bullshit floaters and fadeaways over 2 people. Under 6 seconds in the shot clock, a little bit more open, but, you know, ruthless pursuit of efficient shots, and you make the pass. And obviously, if it's a game, you can't necessarily stop it, though. If you've got timeouts to use and they violate one of your biggest tenets, that's probably a reason to take a timeout, just to let them know, I will not tolerate that. And maybe if it's a game of like a preseason game, regular season game, it's not so consequential. If they don't want to get it right, burn all your timeouts in the first half. And then in the last one, tell them how pissed you are that, you know, that you have to burn your last timeout. But I'm not tolerating not sprinting back on defense or shooting it on 3 people. And obviously another way you stop it in a game is you bench them. And it's just not going to play unless you're willing to share the ball. And then in the film study, you know, showing them clips of like where their spacing could be better. The other aspect in some ways is the carrot. And this is a thing, you know, I guess to conclude with is, I think like everyone who watches this talk will probably think that spacing is critically important. And you may do this, but then I'd ask, when's the last time you've praised a kid for standing still in the corner? and it seems like really kind of almost dumb, but how there's a chance to be on a play like great pass, awesome fast roll, lovely finish, and then the kids in the corners who provided the perfect spacing for that to happen, like, oh, cool, I hear what gets praised. It ain't standing in the corner. I got to go get the ball so I can make that pass. I got to go and set a screen so I can be the one rolling to, get some acknowledgement for coach here. And at first, when we kind of thought of this, it almost seems like a joke. You're like, oh man. And also, great job for standing in the corner. That was brilliant. And they think, oh, that's pretty funny. Thanks, coach. But then I started thinking more like, actually, you need to do that genuinely. Like, praise them. Great job. Perfect spacing. Great job of putting the work in so everyone in this gym knows you're a great shooter and that they can't come off you, because that's a factor in it, right? Like, you standing in that corner as Duncan Robinson, that deserves a whole lot of praise. It's not only, it's in the moment, yes, but it's also everything that gives him gravity when he stands there that takes an immense amount of work that he deserves everything in terms of acknowledgement for. So that would be a thing, I think, is like actually starting to praise the people who give you perfect spacing. And yeah, that's the last point. So I know obviously it's pressed for time, so hopefully that was beneficial to people. I apologize, obviously there's so much more to this topic, but hopefully it gives some more food for thought and maybe gives some people at least one idea that's useful to them. And yeah, thank you very much for the honor of thinking that what I might have to say was worthwhile of your time. And my apologies to Connor and Richard for having to run off. I'll check out your things on the YouTube, and thanks, Mike, for having me. So yeah, cheers. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Zico. Thank you for joining us, and we'll be sure to checking this one out as well. Thank you. I know you have to hurry, so most likely any questions coaches might have, where can they send them or where can they address them to you?
Yeah, I mean, probably easiest to find on Twitter, and then if they
Easiest to
want to
find on
message, then that will work. And then it's just my name, at Zico Coronel, I'm pretty sure. And there's not a lot of those names in the world, so I'm pretty sure you'll find it.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Enjoy your training, coach.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Thank you. Bye-bye. All right, that was a very quick one, and so much being shared in a short amount of time. I know Coach Richards also on the time limit, so without further ado, Coach, love to have you on it, and you're able to share your screen as well.
All righty. Let's see. Okay. All right. I think you guys should be able to see my screen. So first off, like Coach Mike says, my name is Richard Westerlund. I'm the head men's basketball coach at Great Lakes Christian College. I just want to give my contact info in case anybody would like to contact me about the things that I talk about today, or want any of my drills, or just talk basketball. My cell phone number is 301-974-1856. If you're overseas, I also have a WhatsApp. It's Coach R West, so you guys can be able to look me up there. I'm on Twitter, Instagram, and then my email as well. So I would love to connect with all of you if you guys want to talk basketball or talk more pressure basketball. I've had a lot of success pressing, and I know it's a little bit different. You see a lot of teams playing very similar. And for me, I've always been a pressing coach. It's always something I've been passionate about. In the last 2 years, we've forced 829 steals, which ranks second in the United States across all levels: NCAA Division I, Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO. We're second in the nation. Same with turnovers. We forced 1,386 turnovers in the last 2 years. The only team that's forced more steals and turnovers than us is Greenville College in Illinois, and they run the system. If you're not familiar with that, Coronel College made that famous. And so over the last 8 years, my teams have consistently been in the top 5 in turnover margin, steals, turnovers, and turnovers forced over the last 8 years. Last 2 years combined, our turnover percentage in our press has been around 36% according to Synergy, but that doesn't include any of our conference games. In our conference games, we're typically forcing about 25 to 28 turnovers a game. So we're forcing teams over at a high rate. So I'd say our turnover percentage is probably closer to 38 to 40% in our press. And so we've had a lot of success with it. Why press? And because if you're doing something, you're obviously going to give something up. And so for us, why we press is it gives our program an identity or a brand. It's an exciting style of play for players and fans. And when I'm talking about an identity and a brand, people now name their press break Great Lakes. Okay, they'll spend an hour of their prep time for a game preparing for our pressure, and you can't recreate it. So it's given us an identity and a brand of basketball that people know when they're playing Great Lakes, this is going to happen. It makes depth a factor. We're betting on that our guys will make more plays over 40 minutes than the other team. And to me, it gives us a chance to win the toughest games on our schedule. And it never, we're never out of a game. When we think about playing some of these, high major NAIAs and different things like that, that have full of Division I transfers, we're having chances to win those games. There's been multiple games where we've been down 25, 30 points, and we've been able to come back and win those games. And it's because of our pressure. In our national championship game 2 years ago, we were down 25 at the half, and we took it to overtime, and we were down as many as 18 with 6 minutes to go, and 12, I think, with a minute to go, and we were able to come back in that game. And so pressing, it just our guys believe in it, and I believe in it. What are we trying to get out of the press? Obviously, it's live ball. Live balls are always more valuable, but we want to force turnovers. We drill this in practice. One way we drill it, if you're going to press, you got to make sure you're rewarding your guys for their effort. So any live ball turnover we force in practice, we give our guys an extra 3 points on that possession. So on a live ball turnover possession in practice, our team can go on a quick 6-0 run with just one play. And so our guys, they really believe, okay, let me get a live ball and make something happen. It forces quick and bad shots. I don't believe kids work on all the shots they take in game. And so if I can get a two-man to take a quick three when that's not the way they play in practice, that's a win for me. Or if I get a 5-man to take a free throw line jumper on the run, there's not too many 5-men that are working on that consistently at the speed that we're increasing on them. It forces tempo and disrupts offensive flow. We play a lot of really quality teams here in Michigan, and most of them are motion-based. And I'd say some are even more robotic than most. And so us pressing and using pressure, it throws them off of their offensive rhythm. It generates more offensive possession. To me, I always believe I have more talent on my team than anybody else. We recruit really hard to get great players. And so over 40 minutes, I believe our talent is going to wear people down. It's difficult to prepare for. When we're talking about a national tournament setting or a conference tournament setting, it's very hard for people to prepare for all the presses we have. It creates fatigue. Okay. It's not just the physical fatigue, it's the mental fatigue, right? It's that chaos that they don't know when that trap is coming, and it's going to wear them down over the course of the game. And then they're going to start second guessing. Should I make this pass? Should I take this shot? And that's part of the whole mentality that we have with this relentless approach. It makes opposing players do things that they aren't comfortable with. Again, we're going to take them out of what they normally do in practice. Things that you should emphasize as a pressing team. Again, if you're going to press, you have to be all in. You have to be all in. If you're not all in, it's not going to work well. You need 5 guys flying around. You need to have energy. I think that's the biggest thing is you need to have energy. A short saying that I use is the ball finds energy, and that's on offense and defense. But we love telling our guys the ball finds energy. And something I always tell my guys too is the more you think, the slower the feet. So I think there's a lot of coaches who don't like pressing because you have to give up some control. But for me, I like it because it's forcing our guys to make plays. And so I tell them, if you're going to be a spectator, you get to sit on the bench with me. If you're going to be a playmaker and you're ready to make a play, right, you can be out there on the floor. And so we try and tell our guys, we try and simplify it as much as possible, which I'm going to talk about in a few minutes, right? But the more your guys think, the slower their feet are going to move. And so we want our guys' feet moving as quick as possible. Communication. You need to emphasize communication because talking makes you quicker. I tell our guys this all the time, especially freshmen who are just coming into our pressing system. It's chaos for us, right? We think it's chaotic because of how fast we're playing. But imagine how it feels for that other team that never plays a pressing style. that you're speeding up this much, right? How much chaos that is for them. And so communication makes you quicker. It helps you stay on the same page, but we're feeding into the chaos, right? We want them to get out of control because that's where we're going to make our run. Okay. Transitions. You have to be able to transition into your press quickly. If you cannot transition into the press, you're going to give up layups, right? And that just pisses you off if you're giving up wide open layups. So again, you got to be able to transition into your press quickly. We work on this in practice every day. We don't bring our kids to the sideline or the baseline after every drill. We are transitioning one thing to the next, popping to the next. And if they're not getting to it quick, we're going to run. And so we focus on transitions into every drill, into every press, in order for our guys to realize you cannot, celebrate after you make a three or you make a layup. It's, hey, get to your spot on the press. Trapping fundamentals, okay? When to trap. What's a good trap versus what's a bad trap, all right? And some of those things you're looking at when you're talking about trapping fundamentals is your ball handler level of control. Is he out of control? Is his head down? Can he see the whole floor? Those are all things you're looking at. The element of surprise, right? That's, can he see the whole floor? If he's seeing the whole floor, you may not want to trap him. And then the location of the court. If you talk to a pressing purist, he might say, you only trap corners, you trap over the midline, trap against the sideline. For me personally, I'm going to trap anywhere, right? Our only ball screen coverage is trap, right? And so I don't care if we're trapping in the middle floor, in the back court, in the front court. We will trap anywhere because my thing is over 40 minutes, are your guys going to make plays consistently? And I don't think they will. That's just, I'm going to bet on my guys. I'm going to bet on my athletes, my length, that over 40 minutes, we're going to get you to turn it over 18 to 25 times. That's 18 to 25 more possessions for us, and so that's what we're banking on. And so we trap anywhere, and we're going to dare you guys to make plays. And sometimes we get beat with it. But again, I tell my guys this too. I don't care if I lose by 50 pressing. Okay, we're going to press. So it's either you're all in on it or we're going to keep losing. And so, again, our guys have bought into it because they don't want to lose. And they know that I'm crazy enough that we're going to keep pressing no matter what's happening. Okay, so you have to be bought in. When we're talking about trapping fundamentals, who to trap. You want to get it out of a certain ball handler's hand. Do they have a dominant point guard that you say, okay, hey, we need to get it out of his hand and make sure he doesn't touch it. Make sure he's not initiating the offense. You may not trap the 5-man who flashes in the middle of the press, and now he has to bring the ball up the floor. Okay, we want the 5 to initiate their offense because that's not something they normally do, right? So we may not trap the 5-man in the backcourt. We might say, hey, go ahead and be a playmaker, right? And they're talking about how to trap, okay? And those trapping fundamentals of not breaking the glass, making sure you don't get split. Those are big things. And I'm going to talk a little bit more on how to trap in a few moments as well. More things that you should be trying to emphasize as a pressing team is you want to take the obvious pass away. Okay. If you can take the obvious pass away and make them throw that long pass, that's exactly what we want. This seems a little redundant, but you have to pressure the basketball. And when I'm talking pressure, I'm talking, you better be able to smell their breath. You're in their shorts. Okay. Because again, another little saying I like to use is pressure bursts pipes or pressure makes diamonds. And so we're going to pressure you as hard as we can for as long as we can. Stunting. Stunting is when you're getting outnumbered situations, 2-on-1, 3-on-2. You got to be in a cat mouse game. So a stunt is where we say you want to do a hand fake and a foot fake, to freeze the offensive player, make him second guess. So you have to work on stunting a lot. Back pressure. Obviously, when you pressure, you're going to get beat sometimes, right? What I have found in our press, most of our steals are not from the original trap. It's from the back pressure that we're getting in back pursuit for punch outs from behind. Because as soon as the offense gets beyond this first level of the press, now they're thinking, oh, we can relax. No, we are sprinting as hard as we can to go chase that ball and get back tips. Okay. Outnumbered situations. If you're going to be a pressing team, you need to work on 2-on-1s, 3-on-2s every day, right? Because again, you're going to be put in those difficult situations where one has to guard 2. And you've got to be able to delay the attack as you're in your recovery runs. Okay. See it and fix it situations. It is impossible to prepare for every situation you're going to see in the press. Okay. You need to embrace it, right? You need to embrace the fact that you cannot control everything, right? So you need to tell your guys, okay, if you see it, now you got to fix it. Okay. And so sometimes our rotations aren't planned. It's a guy sees he's got to rotate, and then we're busting back to the back pursuit. Okay. So you need to work on your see it, fix it situations. And we have drills that we work on to emphasize those things. Defending multiple positions. A lot of times in the press, you got to have versatility. So the back of your press has to be able to play the front of your press, or if you're in a diamond, maybe you got to have a guy that can be a trapper or on the ball, or maybe the teaser. Okay, so defending multiple positions, the more you can get roster flexibility, the better the pressing team you're going to be as well. The different presses we use. Okay, so we've got 5 presses that we use. The first one is double fist. Okay, that's our fastball. By that I mean our 2-2-1 high pressure. We're going to run that consistently. People know that's who we are. That's what we do. So that's our fastball, as I call it. We have our single fist, which is our 2-2-1 tempo press, where we're just in gaps. That's our changeup. We're changing the speed of the game. They don't know if we're going to trap or not. We're just going to stay in gaps. Okay. Our diamond and one, which we call our diamond. Okay. That's our curveball or our out pitch. Okay. If we want to get a turnover, I'm throwing the diamond on, right? Because we're going to trap right away. And sometimes we've been able to fake a diamond, like we're calling diamond, but we're dropping into a 2-2-1, and that confuses teams. But again, the more you press, the more your guys are able to adapt on the fly. A new press that we put in this year is 55. It's our 1-2-2 3/4 court. That's more tempo. The reason we put that in this year is we've been struggling in back pursuit. Part of it is personnel. We've got a couple guys that are a little slower feet this year. So in order to not give up wide open layups on the backside, we put in this 1-2-2, and we found good success with it. And then the last one we use, this is more of a junk press. It's a 2-2-1 half court. So we're just waiting for the ball handler to dribble right across half court, and we're going to trap him. Sometimes if all of his teammates leave him in the back court, we're going to trap him in the back court, and then he has to throw a long pass. And then wherever the ball goes, when we're in 5, we're going to trap the ball. So if they come across half court, they quickly pass it to the right side of the floor, we're going to go trap. And the whole point of that is let's see if they can make plays, and let's speed them up. A lot of times they're going to shoot a rush corner 3, or they're going to try and get a dump down to the big, and our active hands are going to get it. And so we found a lot of success with that one as well. When you're talking about trapping fundamentals, okay, the big thing is no splits and no fouls. So if my guys get split in a ball screen, they get taken out. If they foul in a trap, I usually will either take them out or I'm fussing them out, right? Because again, you're negating all your work. Trappers are not the stealers, right? Trappers are the ones who are bringing the pressure. So you don't want those guys reaching in or slapping at the ball. We say don't break the glass. So you're going to put the ball handler in a glass box when you trap them. And you're saying you're going to shadow it, but you're not going to break the glass, okay? Be physical with your lower body. Refs will rarely call the contact with the lower body in a trap because there's so much going on that they have to see, that they are very rarely calling that fouls with the lower body. So take space with the lower body and show your hands, okay? Obviously, in trapping fundamentals, you want to force the obvious pass. So if you're a reader in that situation, you're looking at the eyes and the shoulders, okay? Because you may be able to fake with the eyes. Not too many people throw a no look in the trap, all right? But their shoulders never lie. So wherever their shoulders are going, that's where the ball's going to go. So you want to make sure you're telling your readers, watch the shoulders and the eyes. You want to be able to be elastic. So by being elastic, you've got to be able to stretch and move on pivots, okay? If there's a penetrating pass in the trap, all right, so they're able to pass out of the trap quick, you got to tell your guys your first 3 steps are the most important. You've got to bust back so you can get in your see it, fix it, okay? When you talk about double fist, and this is a press I'm going to talk about the most today, just because this is, like I said, this is our baby. This is our bread and butter, okay? Again, we call it double fist. It's a Wahlberg press. So I don't know if many of you guys are familiar with Vance Wahlberg, but he's the guy who I took this press from. And I've been able to tweak it to fit who we are. When I was a high school coach, we were a Wahlberg purist, and we ran it exactly the way Vance ran his. As I got to college, I realized I needed to adapt in order to have success at the college level pressing. Okay. Some of the principles of this press is, it's designed to see how much pressure I can put on you. So you're telling your guys, pressure, pressure, pressure. Okay. I'm yelling at them, get pressure on the basketball. Okay. This defense is designed so that in the first 32 minutes, we're wearing people down, so that at last 8 minutes we play to win. And sometimes we get that big spurt early in the game, but when you're playing some really quality teams, it's about wearing them down and getting that one big run. Okay. What I like to say is to our guys is we're a 6-0 run away from making something happen. For us, that's 2 live balls and 2 offensive possessions, because we shoot the 3 a lot. And so again, we want to say you're a 6-0 run away from making something happen. And so we're wearing people down over 32 minutes to play to win the last 8. The big things that you have to make sure of these principles as well is you're allowing no threes to their best shooter, right? You're running him off the line, and then you're allowing no layups. And again, it's not always perfect. You're going to allow some layups, but you got to make sure you're not allowing layups consistently. And so we really talk about, if we get beat back pursuit for a layup, I'm usually calling a timeout, or I'm taking guys out and getting guys who want to work in there. A big thing as well is move while the ball is in the air. Okay, if you're waiting until they catch it, you're already dead. All right, so you want to move while the ball's in the air, and you want to move on the pivot. So as they pivot, you're able to take space or be able to become more elastic, as I said. Okay, we talk about 3 zones of the press, right? You have the pressure zone. This is typically from baseline to about the volleyball line. If you guys have volleyball lines on your court, I know in the United States, most college courts have volleyball lines. So for us, it's baseline to about volleyball line or a hash mark, if you're looking at the hash mark on a court, okay? And so that's the pressure zone. That is where we're trying to go all out pressure, and we're forcing the ball handler to dribble and speed them up. The cushion zone is from hash mark to hash mark, okay? This is where we're going to give the ball a little cushion if we're getting beat on the dribble, because we want to get beat for a layup, okay? The umbrella zone is really that last third. That's where you've got the 3-point line, and we guard to protect basket, because, again, we're not going to give up a layup, all right? When you talk about double fist and impressing, you never want terrible threes, right? There are 2 terrible threes. You never want 3 behind the ball. You never want 3 on the ball, right? Those are your 2 terrible threes. So if you have 3 behind the ball, you're likely going to be in trouble. So you got to bust back as quick as you can to get back in front of the ball. The other terrible 3 you don't want is you don't want 3 on the ball. If you're trapping with 3 guys, if they're a halfway decent team, they're going to make you pay, right? And so you never want 3 on the ball, okay? Quarters principle. So I want you to think of a basketball court. And when you're thinking of a basketball court, you want to divide it into 4 quarters. So you got sideline. And again, I'm using the United States basketball court version because most of those have volleyball lines. But basically, you're going sideline to about volleyball line, right? That's the outside quarter. Then everything inside the volleyball lines is the inside quarters. On everything outside the volleyball lines is outside quarters, right? So if the ball's on the outside quarter of the floor, everybody is going to be on that half of the floor, right? So if you divide the court in half, if the ball's on the outside part of the floor, you're going to put everybody on the midline, right? Everybody's at least to that half of the floor. If the ball's on the inside of the floor, everybody's on the inside part of the court. And the reason being for that is because you want to make sure you're closing down gaps, right? You never want to give up middle, okay? Something that I didn't put on this slide is you never want your guys on the same plane, okay? And you guys are going to see some clips in a little bit that I could talk about the plane. But if you have your guy on the ball, you don't want it to be a straight line with your guy on the ball and the guy who's in that gapper position. You want it staggered, okay? So you're closing down gaps, all right? You want to guard people with an open foot position, not a square, right? Open foot, so that way you can move quicker while the ball's in the air, okay? Rules, right? So we have principles. Now we have our rules, okay? First rule is pressure the ball, right? Pretty simple, okay? No offensive player is allowed to make a straight line pass if the ball's above his head, right? So if they're going like this, it should never be a straight line pass. Our hands got to be up and make them throw a lob, okay? Yell, pressure, pressure, pressure. This is going to cause discomfort to the offensive player. We don't just pressure physically. We're going to pressure. We're not going to just pressure physically. We're going to pressure with our voice, right? So that's an important part. You do not want to be a hugger. A hugger is a defender that is too close to his man, okay? You also don't want to be a sniffer, right? Sniffer is a defender that's behind the rear end of his offensive player, right? So you don't want to be a sniffer. You don't want to be stuck behind, okay? Another rule is you must cover each other's back. You have to understand it's 5 guys flying around, not just 1 or 2, okay? The last rule is the controller guards 1 person while everybody else guards 2, okay? When you talk about the positions of the 2-2-1, right, that first guy, right, is called the controller, okay? The controller must be tough, okay? He's got to have mental toughness, physical toughness, because he's going to be working the whole time. He's the catalyst to your press. You have to pressure the basketball, and you got to make the offensive player put the ball on the floor. With this version, double fist, the pressure is initiated on the dribble, right? So you want to make sure you're pressuring to make the ball handler dribble. You will likely need 3 players to fill this position as they may get into foul trouble. Part of pressing is you're going to get fouls, right? But here's the thing. The refs aren't going to call every foul across the game. No ref wants to call foul every 2 minutes. So we're going to make officials officiate us the way we want them to. By pressing, they may call someone's early on us, right? But eventually we're going to get away with some contact because how relentless we are in our pressure. So we're going to dictate a lot of things because of our pressure, okay? The last thing for the controller is you must be able to zigzag the offensive player, right? The general rule is you got to get 1 backcourt turn, right? You got to make him turn so we can get a trap. I tell our controller you got to get 2 turns. If you're not making the ball handler turn twice, your butt's getting taken out and you're sitting the bench, right? You got to be willing to work, okay? That second position of that top level of the press is called the gapper, all right? And it's really easy. Why we call it a gapper? Because he's in the gap, right? And the gapper will always become a trapper when the ball is dribbled sideline, okay? If the ball is dribbled middle, it's a run and jump, right? And he's filling the gap, all right? So the gapper is always in the gap. If we get beat because the gapper is not in his gap, I'm not taking the controller out. I'm taking the gapper out, okay? If the ball switches side of the floor, right, the gapper and controller will switch roles, okay? We want to trap from behind if the controller is doing his job. So if you're dribbling up the sideline and the controller is turning, on that turn, the gapper should be there for the trap, okay? If the controller is not doing his job and becomes a sniffer, the gapper's got to work to get ahead of the ball, and we're going to trap on top, okay? Punching out is a back tap. So if they get beyond us, the controller and gapper are working to sprint back and punch the ball out from behind to a teammate, okay? And like I said, you do not get gapped, all right? When you talk about a taker is on the ball sideline, all right? And you can play this a lot of different ways. If you're a Wahlberg purist, you're just going to take the sideline and make sure there's no sideline pass. That's your main responsibility. How I've tweaked it is I allow the taker to make a read, okay? You must be able to read the situation and be able to read the level of control of the ball handler. Sometimes we're going to send our taker to go trap, and we'll do a circle rotation where our teaser will then take the sideline away. Our reader is our basket protect, and our gapper becomes our reader, okay? And so, again, he must be able to read and must be able to take away that sideline pass, okay? And he cannot be on the same plane as the reader. Like I said, they got to be on opposite planes, okay? The reader must be the smartest guy. Okay, he's your gambler. You're telling him he's at the blackjack table and he's gonna hit every time, right? He's gonna gamble. Okay, scared money don't make money. All right, so you want them to go for broke with these steals. Okay, what he's also reading is what the ball is doing and where the ball is going to go. If he reads a bad beat situation, he's gonna sprint back right away to get within the umbrella. And what a bad beat situation is, if the ball handler just catches ripped right past our controller, that's a bad beat. We're not getting back ahead of the ball there. So then we're going to sprint back and create an umbrella and delay the attack as we allow our controller and gapper to get back ahead. Okay, so if we read a bad beat situation, we're busting back as quick as we can. Okay, if he reads the trap is coming, he's looking to intercept and gambling. The last position is the teaser, right? The teaser is teasing the ball handler to throw it to his man. This is the back man. He's protecting the rim. His eyes must be on the ball and the offensive man's shoulders. He's also the quarterback of your defense. He's yelling and communicating any cuts or flashers to the middle. Once he sees his offensive man's eyes taken off the lone pass, he must get further from his man. He also has anything long and opposite. So if the ball's on the outside quarter, he's not worrying about anything else but long and opposite. Okay. This is the most misplayed position in the press. And by that, a lot of times your 5-man doesn't realize how quick he is. And so what we do first day of practice, I sit on the baseline and I'm throwing a full court pass. I'm saying, you go try and intercept this if you're standing at the 3-point line. And he gets it easy. So I'm like, all right, move up another 10 feet to the hash mark. And he's like, all right. And I throw a full court pass again, and he intercepts it easily. By the end of it, he's at half court because he realizes if he's breaking while the ball's in the air, he's going to get it. So again, your guys have to be alert. But that teaser, you want him to tease that pass, right? We want that steal. Okay. We talk about practicing the press. A couple of the drills that we have: circle trap. That's working on trapping fundamentals and interceptor reads. Trap transition. That's working on back tips, back pressure, see it, fix it. Same with triangle fast break. You got 4v4v4, which is working on transitions and conditioning. Circle transition, which is working on just transitioning to get set up into the press. And then you got your shell. This is working on positioning and angles. Okay. Circle trap. So here's a diagram of it. Okay. You've got 8 guys. And again, the ball is here. 1 and 2, the 2 closest guys are going to go look to trap. Okay. 3 and 4 are going to split the difference between offensive players 2, 3, 4. Okay. And so we're looking to get traps. Typically, we're running this about 30 seconds at a time, and then we're rotating. All right. Sometimes we're getting steals. Sometimes we're getting deflections. Sometimes we're not getting steals at all, but we're going to work on our trapping fundamentals and our interceptor reads here. Okay. As it moves, then we become elastic. So now it moved to 3. 1 and 3 become the trapper. 4 then rotates to play the 2, and then 2 rotates, right? So you have to become elastic in the traps. Okay. The next drill is trap transition. So you can do this out of any press setup. What we do is we're typically doing it out of our diamond or our double fist in the trapping location we want. So we have a trap, and what we tell our guys is you're holding for 3 seconds, and then it's live. So a lot of times what this guy does is he's going to throw it to 4, and then we're having to delay the attack and potentially get another trap, or if they throw it long, we're basically transitioning out of the trap. Okay, so we're working on back pressure and see it, fix it situations. Okay. Triangle fast break is the same thing. All right. We are now behind the basketball. We got 2 guys in front of the basketball, 2 guys behind. Okay. And they've got 4 guys in front of the basketball. Right. So again, 1 and 2 are working to get back ahead of the ball, and we're matching up out of it. A big thing with pressing is being able to match up once you're broken. And you got, what I tell our guys is guard the closest 1, 2, and then we'll switch it when we can. Right. So guard the closest 1, 2, and then switch it when we can. Again, as a college coach, we get to recruit our personnel. And so a lot of times we got guys who can switch 1 through 5. Right. And so we're able to press the way we want to a lot of times. If you're a high school coach or a youth coach, you're relying on angles. What I did as a high school coach, I did double fist into a 2-3 zone, and it worked really well. And we would trap and force tempo out of a 2-3 zone. I know some of you guys probably thinking, well, that's stupid because you played zone with the high school team. You should play man. Again, for me, it's all about dictating tempo and pressure. Okay. 4v4v4, it's exactly what it sounds like. You got three teams of 4. This group of 4 is going to come at this team in man-to-man. If they score, right, they're putting on the press. Okay. If they miss, we're looking to jam the outlet and forcing turnovers in the backcourt. As soon as this defensive team gets across half court, now they're going at the X team. All right. And so again, when you score, you're putting on the press. So this is chaos, absolute chaos. But it's a great drill for working on transitions and getting your guys comfortable with the chaos. Okay. Some pressing clips, and this is what I'll finish with before taking any questions. If you guys have any, hopefully this works. Okay. Okay, so this is at Taylor University. If I could stop it. Okay.
I think you're still on the presentation because we still see the presentation.
Still
So
see the presentation. You don't see the YouTube.
No. So maybe if you stop sharing and share again with the right screen, now we see it again.
Gotcha. Okay, working on it.
Otherwise, we love your commentary, but we don't see anything. So
okay. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna stop share. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen. All right. How about now? Is that good?
Yep. No, that's
right.
perfect.
Great. So right here, we're getting into our press. Okay. We're in good quarters, right? Balls in the inside quarter. So here's these volleyball lines like I was talking about. And so our reader and our taker are not on the same plane. Our gapper's not in great position. He should probably be at this free throw line. But again, we're in solid position right here. Okay. As the ball moves, right, we're in good spot. Okay. I would prefer this guy to be an open foot. Okay. Open foot stance is this right here. Okay. And we're going to provide pressure. We got a run and jump trap. Okay. And again, you see their coach right here. He's pissed off, but we had just provided so much pressure that they're not going to keep calling every foul. Right. So maybe bump them there. We get a quick turnover and we're back into our press. Okay. Right here, we're in our press. Again, great quarters. Ball is in the inside part of the floor. These guys aren't on the same plane. These guys aren't in fantastic position because you can see they're on the great plane. But if you're in your quarters, that solves 90% of your problems, right? So you can be on the same plane, but if you're in your quarters as a pressing team, that will solve 90% of your problems. Okay, so again, we get him to hesitate. This is exactly what we want. He's hesitating. Now our reader can think gamble. Same with these guys, right? At this point, we know this is going to be a turnover, okay? And so we get it there. He comes up quick and we get a layup. All right. And this clip right here, okay, we're in good quarters. The one thing that is bad, and I don't know if you can see it because at least on my screen, the zoom is to the right of my computer. Our reader is not in the position where he's supposed to be. He's all the way back with their best player. Okay. But we took away middle. So we took away the obvious pass. Okay. By taking away the obvious pass, we are creating a good situation. And again, we're up 3 right here with 58 seconds to go in the second half. There's a lot of coaches who wouldn't press here, but we said, hey, we're going to keep true to our identity, okay? And so we're letting it go, right? We have active hands. Our hands are up, okay? Good hands here. His hands are down, right? And we get a deflection, which leads to a steal, okay? This is when we're in our diamond. Right. So we've shifted out of our 2-2-1. Okay. We're on the ball. We're matching here. Okay. We're taking away this pass. This guy's running. Right. Our guy on the ball is doing a great job. Okay. And he's just going to give it up. Right. And then you see how we broke while the ball is in the air. Right. We're breaking while the ball is in the air. And because of that, we're getting this steal. So ball's in the air. He breaks on it. Great steal. Okay. Now we're running. Okay, and we're looking to finish off of it. Okay, this is our 2-2-1. All right, I actually think this is our single fist press right here because we're not applying the pressure the way we want. We're in more gaps. Okay, so we're in our gaps. Okay, we're shifting while the ball's in the air. And again, this isn't great spacing right here. All right, you see how bunched up we are. But if you see it, look at all 5 of their players. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All of them are right there, which means to me, I know we're going to force a turnover, okay, because they have terrible spacing and they're making our jobs a lot easier, okay. You also notice we're in our quarters. We're at least at the midline. We've taken away the obvious pass, okay. This is an easy thing to recover to. He's not going to go there, okay. So we're in great position here. They go long, okay, back pursuit while the ball's in the air, right? So our teaser moves out to the ball to take that, okay? He thinks this is wide open. He doesn't see our man in the back pursuit while the ball's in the air. He thinks this is going to be an easy layup. Nope, we're right there for a steal, and we're off and running, okay? This is, I believe, the bad possession of the press. You're not going to see good quarters here, I don't think, okay? And so we allow them to catch it middle, right? Because these guys got too spaced. This is not what we want, all right? So then they pass it up and go sideline, all right? And now we're matching up out of it, okay? So again, it's not terrible that we were able to match up out of it, but we didn't apply pressure, and then this is way too easy. We didn't do a great job matching. The kid who gets this three is a 55% three-point shooter and hits it, okay? So not a great job by us there. But again, for the most part, we do a really solid job at our press. That's all I have on pressing. If you guys have any questions, like I said, I love talking about it. I know it's different, and I know it's sometimes scary to be a little different, but it's something that, we want to do and what I'm bought into. Like I said, my cell phone number is 301-974-1856. On WhatsApp, I think my cell phone number is connected to it, or it's Coach R West. Feel free to WhatsApp me, DM me on Twitter, which is also Coach R West, or email me, rwesterlund@glcc.edu. I'd be more than willing to send you my presentation or give you some pressing tips that have worked for us. Like I said, Coach Mike, thank you for allowing me to share. And if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.
I think it all depends on your time and how much time you have left before you have to go to Chicago.
I've got about 5 minutes for questions if we can do it.
5 minutes. Let me check the chat because I see. All right, I see a fellow coach, Coach Malik. All right, it's saying it's a great one. So I have a question for you as well. In practice scenarios, it's only pressing scenarios. So if they go on to the next level, so that's more of a philosophical question. What do they have in their bag or in their package to go to the next level besides pressing?
Mm-hmm. So part of our pressing as well is, obviously we want to be great at half court defense. And so our half court defense the last 2 years has been really solid as well, particularly our ball screen coverage. And so, offensively, we're trying to run a more high ball screen offense and be able to create in space. And so we've had some success with some guys. We haven't found that it's hurt our guys with pro opportunities. We've got 3 that are about to sign contracts. There's some countries that are closed, but we've got 3 that are about to sign contracts. So for at our level, to have 3 pros from one program is quite a bit. And we project another 2 that will sign after this year as well. And so we haven't found that it's hurt our guys at all. I think it's just trying to put our guys in the best situation to be successful.
Yes, indeed. So I wasn't referring to being hurt or hurting them for their opportunities, as we talked about pressing only. And I thought, okay, what else do you guys do on the defensive end as well as the offensive end? Because pressing it. We got a question. What type of offense, press break alignment, gives the press the most trouble?
Well, it depends on which press we're running. So obviously a diamond, if you're overloading it with 4 guys, it's a little tougher for us because we're not going to bring our big all the way up. If you're doing a 2-2-1, obviously if you odd front it, and the team that breaks our press the best is Grace Christian University. They're our rival. And we play them like 4 times a year because we always meet in the conference championship. And so they've got a press break that works really well. Typically against Grace, we're forcing only like 18 to 20 turnovers instead of 25 to 28. And so, again, I think like for us, we adjust it based off of how they're going to break the press. But again, for the diamond, it's definitely the 4 up. And then for the 2-2-1, it's the 3 up that typically gives us the most problems.
All right, perfect. I think you've shared everything as well as your contact information. So if there's any other coaches that would like to contact you, they feel free to reach out to coach. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing this information on this pressing defensive philosophy of your team as well. For now, I would say best of luck today. Let's hope it works, and you get home with the W.
Yep. I appreciate it, guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yep. Bye.
All right, Connor. All speakers
right.
gone. You're the last one left. You're the last one standing. Anxious to see yours. To see your presentation, man.
Yeah, it's gonna be a hard follow up. The two guys did a really great job with their Zico and Rich as well. For those of you that don't know, I was actually Rich's assistant coach last year at Great Lakes Christian College. So me and him are real close, and I've seen that press up close, and he does a really good job. I mean, I think he's one of the best pressing coaches I've ever been around. So if that's definitely something you're looking to do, I would definitely try to get in touch with him about that. But so I know you mentioned something about the video. It says, is it the optimized screen sharing for video clip that you're talking about?
Yeah, but I think if Zico already did it, it should be okay. But you can double check it. If you go up in your with your mouse, you will see like a little drop. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I think I'm good here. All right. Can everybody see my screen? You can see my screen, Mike?
Yeah, we see your screen with a presentation on it, indeed.
Okay, awesome. So today I'm going to be talking about ball screen concepts to create an advantage. I'm going to be going over some roles, responsibilities, some actions that I really like, and I'm going to go through a lot of film on this. I'm a big film guy. I'm going to stop and start, try to talk about some of the little details that I really like. And for those of you that don't know me, my name's Connor Harr. I'm the student assistant men's basketball coach at West Liberty University. We're a D2 program out of West Virginia. So we're going to start and get started here with the screener. We're going to start with just some little responsibilities for the positions. The screener, number one thing I think for him to create an advantage is he should always sprint into his action. You want to win those first three steps as a screener. Andrea Trinchieri, I'm sure a lot of the people on this call are very familiar with him. When I was watching him do a pick and roll defense clinic, he said the screener's first three steps equal the separation of the shot. And I thought that was really good stuff. If you think about it commonly, like if the screener wins his first three steps and he creates separation on his man, it's a lot harder for the screener's man to get into their desired coverage defensively. And that's the whole goal of that. And that's why you see so many false motion actions becoming so popular, like the ram screen, which is a down screen into a ball screen, or whatever terminology you want to use, because the goal of these actions is to win these first three steps and make that coverage for the defense as hard as possible. Another big thing is you always want to set your screen in an effort to get the ball handler downhill. In order to do that, you want the defender to chase over top of the screen, the ball handler's defender, I'm sorry. And the way we taught this last year, I know Coach Rich mentioned that we were a pretty heavy ball screen offense at Great Lakes. And the way we taught it was we used the term hit the hip. So the way we said that is we want the screener to take his imaginary belt buckle and hit the ball handler's defender's outside hip. And that was sort of our angle and our process to get the ball handler's defender chasing over top. And then this last point is something that I think internationally they do an amazing job of. I think in the States we do a really poor job of it. And it's in the event of the defense going under, flip the angle of the screen as a screener. I know people have a lot of different terminologies for it. I just say flip the angle. And the most important thing about this as well is the twist that the ball handler has to do as well, because you need to attack that angle of the screen that's been flipped at a different angle as the ball handler. I think now I'm watching a little bit more D1 college basketball, and I'm starting to see it a little bit more and more, and I like it. But the key detail that we're leaving out of it in the States is we're leaving out the twist. The ball handler needs to attack that new angle of the screen at a new angle of his own. And when we get into film, we'll go over that as well. Ball handler, obviously, you want to come off looking to get downhill every time, okay? And when you come off looking to get downhill every time, you're going to engage a lot of opposing defenders. And that's what it's all about. You want to engage as many defenders as possible when coming off the ball screen as the ball handler. And one of the quotes that I really like as well, it's from Zach Bovair. He's an assistant coach at Army West Point. He runs pickandpop.net, does amazing work. I'm sure a lot of people on the call are really familiar with him. It's reject as many as you use. And if you've went through a ball screen clinic at all in probably about the past 2 to 6 months, you've heard somebody talk about how we don't use the reject enough in ball screen offense. And the whole point of the reject is you're changing the defense's rotations. Defenses don't practice rejections when they practice ball screen defense. They practice using it. In fact, I know coaches that actually force them to use it, force the offense or the scout team to use it when working on their ball screen defense because they want to see their coverage carried out the way they want. But by doing that, you're limiting your defense and leaving them susceptible to giving up a lot of points off the reject because now your rotations aren't the same as they would be if they use the screen. And sometimes, depending on what coverage you're in, it's a lot harder to get into your coverage or nearly impossible to get into your coverage off of the reject. Go through your progressions as a ball handler. Who's tagging? Zico used that MEEP terminology. It was the first time I ever heard it, and I thought it was absolutely brilliant. Okay. As the ball handler, you have 3 reads, right? First is yourself. You're coming off downhill. You're looking to score, right? That's your first read. Your second read is the roller, right? And then your third read is who's tagging or helping off of the roller. So Dan Krikorian, a guy who runs half of Slapping Glass on Twitter, I'm sure everybody's familiar with that as well. I think Dan's on this call actually.
I just
but
wanted to say, heads up, he's on the call. So whatever you're going to say, we'll
hey
hear.
man, I got nothing but love for my man Dan. But he said something to me the other day when we were on a phone call talking about some ball screen offense stuff. And he said that the best ball screen guards don't care about their man. They look at the backside. And hopefully I'm phrasing that right. But I thought that was brilliant. And that leads into my next point is you want to be a wanting ball mover, not a ball stopper. That's where the MEEP that Zico talked about comes into play, right? You might have a small advantage, but if you can move the ball to create a greater advantage for your teammate, you want to move that ball early. You want to move it early as possible, and you want to be a ball mover in the process of coming off of the ball screen. All right, so now we're going to talk about our off-ball players. I think off-ball players are just really, really, really underrated when it comes to ball screen offense. And the quote that I feel like backs this up the most is the ball screen is a 5-man operation and not a 2-man game. I can't credit anybody for that quote. I've seen it a lot of times. I've seen it thrown out by so many different people. I love it, and I firmly believe it. I think sometimes as coaches, we struggle with ball screen offense teaching the details of it. And you just say like, hey, Joe, you're going to go set a ball screen for Jimmy, and you're going to work this 2-man game. And then the other 3 players kind of look around like, oh, what do I do now? Especially if that's not a really important part of your offense. And by understanding that it is a 5-man operation and that the other 3 players are extremely important within your ball screen offense, you're letting them know, okay, hey, me holding this space, me making this cut, me flaring on this double side, all these different options that I have are really important and really what makes the offense, in my opinion. Off-ball players, you want to make 0.5-second decisions. This 0.5-second decision concept kind of comes from the old San Antonio Spurs teams. This is important because these will often be the guys reading and being the primary decision makers within the advantages that have already been created. So when you're making these 0.5-second decisions, you don't want to hold the basketball. You got to drive it, move it, or shoot it. You got to do one of the 3. And then your goal should always be to keep or capitalize on the advantage. Obviously, capitalize, I make a shot, keep, I drive it to keep the advantage, and then move it, or I just move it right away to keep the advantage. And then I just put some things down here as ways you can kind of utilize your off-ball players, distorting the tag with cuts and different false motion actions, reads off of penetration, whether that's ball handler penetration or penetration off the next pass. And then help as well, right? Attacking the tag. Once you see who's tagging, can you read off of that to create a bigger advantage for one of your teammates? And then shooting gravity, which is just more of a personnel concept. Obviously, these players are going to be spaced out. Teams are going to have to help off of them. And when players have more shooting gravity and can really shoot, teams are less reluctant to help off of great shooters. So what that shooting gravity from your off-ball players is going to do is it's going to create even more open opportunities for your ball handler and for your roll man as well. Double side roll or reverse angle screens, as some people call them. To me, and I've shared this with a lot of people, I did a presentation where this was a big part of what I was doing as well. To me, the double side roll, reverse angle screen, ball screen set to the short side of the floor, whatever you want to call it, I think that this is really at the forefront of ball screen offense. And I see it happening more and more throughout the season as I'm watching like EuroLeague and Euro Cup games. And I think like it's starting to get there, like it's starting to gain traction. And the minute I saw this, I thought, wow, this is a beautiful action. This is exactly what I want. And I think this is exactly the type of action within a ball screen that's very hard to guard. So starting off talking about it, spacing is key. Extended rotations start with great spacing, right? Spacing is the magic word in basketball. It's kind of everybody's mantra. We want to play with great space. We want to play with great pace, whatever your lingo is. And the idea behind this spacing is that you want to suck the defense in to be able to expand them out. And by expanding them out, that starts with your spacing. Your spacing is going to suck them in deep, but your spacing is also going to expand them out deep as well. You're countering the popularity of the shake action, especially in college. Shake action for me, I think it's a good action. I think it's a great way to get your ball handler downhill. But to me, I think it's ran a little bit too much at the collegiate level, especially for teams that run a lot of ball screen stuff. And you'll see this a lot out of drags as well, where you're kind of looking for that single tag, which is going to be your shake action. Guy lifts up out of the single side corner. Now you're playing off that little short closeout advantage. But I think there's a lot of good shake sets out there. I just think you can create bigger closeouts within a ball screen within your offense. And, I'm going for the bigger closeout every time versus the smaller closeout, if that makes sense. Double side roll screens, they're going to lead to numerical advantages, right? You're going to be led to a lot of 3-on-2 advantages and a lot of 2-on-1 advantages on the double side of the floor. And from there, what you want to do is you want to attack the tag, you want to attack the help, you want to read the advantage. And we're going to get into that when I get into film on this as well. And then lastly, you're punishing defenses' rotations with this action. And being able to punish defenses' rotations is a big thing in what makes a great offensive action, because everyone genuinely talks about adjustments offensively. Coaches are always willing to make offensive adjustments. They're always willing to tinker with X's and O's, tinker with this, tinker with that. I think a lot of coaches aren't as willing to tinker with the defensive side of the ball, especially in game. So if you can find out a way to attack their high tag or their low tag or their ball screen coverage with this double side roll, you're going to put yourself in a really good position where potentially the coach isn't going to be able to make an adjustment on the fly because you're punishing his core principles. All right, so now we're going to get into film on the double side roll. I'm going to let you guys know right now I will mess up film at least 3 times, so just bear with me. So the first one, we're going to go from Ratio Farm. This is a team that I really like a lot. I love studying them. And this is going to be kind of like your common action that you're going to see. You're going to see like a down screen or a stagger, some kind of off screening action. I believe this is off of one of their diamond sets where the guy who sprints off of the screen is just going to flip right back to the ball handler. And then we're getting right into this reverse angle screen. So see it here, play it through a little bit, right? So now we're setting our screen right here, kind of like in this wing area, high wing area. And right here, the idea of this screen and being set at this short side of the floor, your ball handler right now, you're probably saying, well, there's not a lot of space for him to attack downhill, but the space is going to come from this side of the floor and playing through the roll man off of the short roll. So what you're going to see here, he's going to short roll here. All right, boom, this is what we want, right? So we short rolled here right to the middle of the floor. Now we're playing 3-on-2 with a lot of space, almost a whole side of the floor to work with, right? That's a big numerical advantage with a lot of space. So what they're going to do here is this high tag comes late. Now we're left with the 2-on-1 on this double side of the floor. And this low man here on the double side, he's left with a big decision to make, right? Am I going to guard the wing guy off of this pass? Am I anticipating the wing pass, or am I anticipating the corner pass? So what you're going to see here is he kind of shades over right there to the wing guy. Just 2 steps real quick, shading over to the wing guy. We're going to anticipate this wing pass. So what they do here is they attack this help, right? So our deep corner guy is now making a baseline corner cut to the rim with the low man's defender's head now turned away from him. So now he's able to cut to the rim here and finish at the rim for a layup. And that's off of kind of like you're attacking the help, like I talked about. So this one's going to be where you're flipping the angle of the screen. So right here, we kind of got our regular shake action. There's a guy in the deep corner. I know obviously you can't see him. We got a guy in the other corner, and we got a guy in sort of like this really, really, really far extended area right here. I'd call it like the wing. And we're going to set this screen here. You can see this ball handler doesn't do a very good job of engaging his defender. And by engaging, some people say set up. He doesn't do a very good job of engaging his defender. And by him not engaging his defender, this becomes a really easy under for the ball handler's defender to make on this screen. So you see he goes under right here, pretty easy. So now you see what this ball handler does though. He's able to extend this out, stretch this out with his live dribble. And what that's going to do is that's going to allow him to attack this rescreen on a different angle, on a different plane. And what that does is that allows the ball handler to get downhill like we want. So now you can see right here, boom, attacks it. Now we're in a perfect position here, right? He's looking to hit his outside hip. We're going to get this defender chasing over top. Ball handler's defender chasing over top. He's out of this play for the time being right now. And now we are attacking this drop big one-on-one, right? Ball handler attacks the drop big. What does this do? This opens up the obvious pass to the roll man. It's the roll man right here because of how engaged that this ball handler got this drop big. The low help's forced to come over a little bit. Realistically, he can make this rotation back at the rim. But because of how engaged he got this big, we're getting the low help involved as well. So now with this low man involved on the double side, this is a really easy read for the roller off the ball screen. Boom, we're just moving it right here to the corner for a wide open 3. So we move it to the corner right there, wide open 3. And if we go back here, I just want to point out something. So once he catches this pass right here, right? So that's pretty close. He's about catching it. Once he catches this pass, now this low man is closing back out to his man. With him closing back out to his man with his feet already set in the paint, you're creating a very long closeout. This is probably one of the longer closeouts that you can get within a half-court offense, especially with 10 seconds already gone off the shot clock. And that's exactly what we're trying to do. If we're not creating a numerical advantage, what we're trying to do is we're trying to play through the long closeout, right? High-level basketball is played through the long closeout. That's something I got from Ryan Pannone. I believe it was on one of Coach Mike's clinics. And that's something that I firmly believe as well, is that you know that the defense is going to be most susceptible in the half court through the long closeout. The last 2 schools I was at, counting this one that I'm at right now, we always talked about, where can we get better defensively? Where's our weak spot defensively? And you throw out a couple concepts, but always, always, always closeout is up there because it's so hard to make a great closeout in live, real time, and real play. You see right there, like we talked about, open 3, he just misses the shot. Now we're going to go off of a single side reject here. But this guard here, he does a really good job of being a ball mover and moving the ball early to get a bigger advantage for one of his teammates. So we're going to get the reject here off the ice, right? So this ball handler has this big engaged. He could probably attack his outside shoulder, maybe get a little shot at the rim, maybe draw a foul, maybe get a contested layup. But what he does is he does a great job of being a ball mover early, engaging this low man who's looking directly at the ball handler. And what he's able to do is he's able to skip early to the corner for an open three. So right here, we're going to see, right, we're being a ball mover early. We're right here in the corner for an open three. Now we're playing, and if you wanted to, we play through the closeout right there, but we knocked down an open three instead. All right, so now we're going to go to, this is a set that FS runs a lot that I like. Personally, I'd probably space it out a little bit more on the other side of the floor here. But this is a great way to get a double side roll as well. And we're going to talk about this concept off the double side roll here. So it's just a little like, almost like a zipper action. We're just setting a little tight down screen right up the middle. And then the ball handler catches, and now we're following it right up with the step up screen from the opposite big. So right here, he comes off this screen. We got our double side roll. They hedge this. He's able to attack the outside shoulder, create his advantage off the hedge. And now what I want you to see here is that guy who set that initial middle down screen, he spaced out to the corner, probably should have spaced out a little bit more. And now we got this guy on this high 45 area. And what that's going to do here is we have this low man committing to the roller, staying in help side. And now this guy in this high 45 area, he's lifting up. And by him lifting up, you're making it impossible for the defense to do what I would call Xing out. So what Xing out would be is kind of like a scramble concept where he throws it, where the guard throws this pass, opposite pass to the corner. This high man on the double side closes out to the opposite corner, takes this low man's guy, and this low man closes out to that lifted 45 guy and takes his man. And that's the concept of the Xing out. So that takes away this concept here, because now this high guy on this double side, he's committed to running with the lifted offensive player. So he lifts, right? He's committed to this lift. It allows for this pass to be made to the corner. And now look at this. So he ends up shooting this as well. But if you wanted the option to play through this closeout here, look at the angle that this high guy is now making attacking this closeout. This is a really good angle to attack. I mean, this is, you can already, no matter how good of a defensive player this guy is, it's going to be a bad closeout just because of the angle of approach, and that angle of approach that's forced off that lift from the 45. All right, so now we're going to see the same concept again for Buduknost. Here you're going to see right here, we got the reverse angle screen, right? Got a drop. Ball handler gets downhill. Not great spacing here, which is why this is probably a little bit easier to guard, but we still get what we want here. We get this lift here. It's going to attract attention of this high double side guy. And what it's going to do is it's going to create that skip opportunity into the corner for an open three. All right, so now we're going to get into some coverage-based stuff. So the first coverage we're going to go over is drop or ice. All right, the most important thing when you're attacking coverages is you want to be able to understand the goal behind why the defense is running this action, because you want to take them out of their goal. The defensive goal is going to be to stop the pick and roll 2-on-2. That's your general principle of a drop or an ice coverage, is they're trying to stop the pick and roll 2-on-2. They're not trying to make a really extended tag. Screener, in a drop or ice, your options are going to be based on the defense. They're also going to be based on your personnel, though. And a drop, short roll, speed roll, and an ice, space away. And these are just my personal ones. I know that there's other stuff out there that you could utilize as well. Ball handler, you got two goals in mind. You want to engage the drop in both the drop and the ice. You want to engage the drop big, and you want to take the reject. That's on the ice. You want to take the reject every time it's given to you. You want to establish yourself as a threat to score and commit those two, the ball handler's defender and the screener's defender, to one. Off ball, you want to read and capitalize on the advantage. That's always your job. You're going to read where the help came from. You're going to look to attack the help, and you're going to look to capitalize or keep the advantage. Now we're going to get in some film here. I'm actually going to skip this one because I know we are pressed for time. I'm going to skip this one here. Okay, so now we're going to get into a speed roll from a defender, or from the screener, I'm sorry. So we have a speed roll coming right here. What's going to happen here, this is actually a really bad screen, really bad angle, but a really great speed roll to make up for it. So the only reason this ball handler is able to get downhill is because he catches and he rips through automatically on his catch. He's able to get downhill. We have a roll here. All right. This big, he's rolling hard. He's rolling real hard. When your big rolls really hard and rolls like he wants to score, you're going to attract defenders, especially if you've already, I know this is early in the game, but if you've already established your big man as a threat on the roll. And that's something as well that I don't think teams do a good enough job of, is you got to be able to establish your threat to really extend those tags. So here we got a hard speed roll. It's going to attract the attention of this low man. Now what this speed roll does, it puts this drop big in a difficult position, because he's told in a general drop coverage that he has to respect the run of the roll man. He has to. So now he's kind of playing off balance from that fast roll. This ball handler might have the opportunity to attack with the big kind of out of position here, but he ends up being a ball mover early, attacks this low help, moves it early, and you get a wide open three. But that's all created off of that speed roll. You're left with multiple options from that roll. You're left with the option to attack the big, but you're also left with the option to skip to the corner off the low help. See right there, we got the low help, skip to the corner, wide open three. All right, so now we're going to go to.
Could I ask you a question about that speed roll?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so if you go back to the previous clip,
Yeah, no problem.
what do you think would happen if he did a slow roll on it, and would that also be beneficial?
Yeah, definitely. So right here, I think where you're setting obviously the screen wasn't set. I think if you set the screen, you probably wouldn't be able to short roll here just because of the spacing. You have this high guy committed right here. That's a tough short roll to make. But you also here, without the screen being set, you have the ball handler chasing right over top, and the big's not in a great position for this. I would say right there on that specific clip, no. But in general, once it's executed better, you'll be able to see a good short roll. So
maybe my English, but I mean a slow, not short, but a slower roll.
Oh, a slow roll. I'm sorry. I thought you said short roll.
No, my English.
No, you're fine. So let's just play it through here real quick so I can see it again. All right. So right here, I'd say probably as long as this guard's able to attack still, but I think the speed of the roll is really what makes this, because that's now leaving this drop big here. He has to back up and honor this roll. If he didn't have to honor this roll on a short roll, he's probably in a better position to take the ball handler, and he's probably in a better position to take the roll where this tag's not going to be as extended. Does that make sense?
No, that makes perfect sense though. Yep, thank you.
Okay. So now right here, we're gonna get into our first ice concept here. I think you could really use this off of a drop or an ice, but this is something that I really like a lot. Ohm does it here, right? So off of this ice, you're getting the reject. This guard doesn't do a very good job of engaging this big here, but it's still able to work out. So this big spaces away off of it. When I talk about spacing away off an ice, I'm not talking about a pop. He rejects it. You're just spacing away as the screener. So he spaces away. We have the opportunity here, or this big's in drop coverage. Now he's going to throw it to the space away. All right. Now we have this big playing in what would be a short closeout. All right. So now he's in a short closeout scenario. Now what Ohm does off of this is they have a hard 45 cut here. And now this deep corner is lifting up, and now you're just passing and chasing into the next ball screen. So the idea and principle behind this is if you're able to get a big and a short closeout off a drop, if you're then able to get into the next ball screen with great pace, he's probably not going to be in the greatest position to be able to defend the next ball screen that's done with really good pace. And the other idea behind this concept too is, let's say this guard really engages that big, that closed out. Now you're going to leave this big on the space away with a wide open lane to attack or a wide open three. So what that would force this high 45 guy to stunt at the big spaced away. If he stunts at this big spaced away, this would be called cutting the stunt, or just a concept that a lot of teams do, where you're now cutting this stunt and you probably have a back door, or off of this help from this low man, you have a skip pass to the corner. So as you can see here, we're going to get back into it. We're going to play it through. So right here, we got our space away. We hit the space away. Now we're going to go hard 45 cut right there. And we're passing and chasing right into the next action, right? So we're defending another ball screen here. Look at how that ball handler's turning the corner already. And look at where this big is in the next ball screen scenario, right? He's got a lot of space to work with to attack the rim. And that's exactly what he does. He attacks the rim. He finishes over a contest, but you're still able to get a shot at the rim. So the next concept we're going to get into off an ice here. This is when you want your ball handler to attack a dropped big that's kind of skeptical defending in space off of an ice. So what this is called here is this is called screening the inside hip. So what this screener is going to do, instead of screening his outside hip, because they want him to reject this screen, he's just going to screen his inside hip. And by screening his inside hip, it still forces the chase over top. And now it allows the ball handler to attack with speed and play one-on-one with a drop big. So as you can see here, right here, we're screening the inside hip. Ball handler now, it's him in the big. Him in the big, one quick move. We're right there into a 2-dribble pull-up off of that move. So now the whole concept of that, like I said, is you want to be able to attack that drop big in space. So now we're going to get, I apologize. There's actually somebody screaming over by me. I'm in an apartment building with very thin walls. So if you hear that, I apologize. So we're going to get into another ice here. Right here, we're just going to pass and chase right into this ball screen. You see ice, they're giving him the reject. This is going to be the ball handler taking the reject and really engaging this drop big. So here he takes his reject. He's coming downhill, right? Now he's got this big engaged, right? So this is exactly what they don't want out of this ball screen scenario. Now you have 2-on-1 instead of solving it 2v2. And we're going to see this little short roll right here. And what this roll is able to do is it allows the ball handler, and I had another one on this, but I skipped through it. But what you want on this short roll here is you want to be able to catch with your defender as a screener already behind you. So that way you're playing in your 3-on-2 now, and you're not playing in your 2-on-1. So now right here, we're going to catch. He has the option right here. We'll take it back. Roller has the option right here, right? He could fire to the corner, but instead he just finishes right over the low help. So now we're going to get into hedges here. So hedges, for your screener, you're looking for a short roller slip. Ball handler, you're looking to attack the outside shoulder of the screener's man or get the ball out as quickly as possible. Off ball, you're going to read and keep the advantage. You want to keep the ball hot. You want to keep it moving. Personally, for me, I think that a hedge is just a really welcoming coverage to me, because I feel like if you have stuff and you've taught the hedge and you have good packages or sets that you want to attack the hedge with the spacing the way you want it to be, it's going to be a really good way for you to create 4-on-3 advantages, because that's the hedge. You're playing 4-on-3 for a second. So we're going to get into this film right here on the hedge real quick. And I'm going to show you this first action, and then I'm going to get right into the couple. I think I have 1 or 2 concepts off the hedge, and we'll just skip it right through because I know we're pressed for time. So the first one, we're going to have a double drag from Asbel. And what happens off this double drag is this first screener, he goes and sets a down screen for the corner. And this second screener, what he's going to do is he's going to pop right off of it. So you're going to see here, you're going to get the pop. Ball handler is going to hit the pop. Now we're going to get a down screen into a dribble handoff, or what I would call a Chicago action. So you're going down screen to dribble handoff. And now off of this dribble handoff, you're flipping right back to the initial guard. Flip back to the guard. And now we're going to be able to attack this hedge off of a double side roll. So you can see right here, hedge is coming, screener slips really well. Now we're playing 3-on-2 with a lot of space, right? So we're playing 3-on-2 here. Short roll pass gets made off the slip. Now we have the low man coming to help. And all he does here is we read this advantage, we cut this help, right? And there's a lot of different concepts that you could use this, like let's say this low man helps here, and this guy in the deep corner decides instead of cutting, he wants to flare for this guy on the 45 area. He wants to flare this high guy on the double side. Like, you could do that as well. He could stay spaced for a 3. There's a lot of different concepts that you could utilize. But the idea of this is you're creating your big numerical advantage on the hedge off of that slip, but also off of the spacing. Because by setting this ball screen in this extended 45 area, you're giving a lot of space off of that roll to play off of a numerical advantage. Right here, cut the help, and then he finishes out the rim for a 3, or for a layup. So now we're going to get into, actually, we'll skip this one here, and we'll go into, okay, so we're going to go into this one here. So this is going to be your typical dunker ball screen. Dunker ball screen, I'm sure everybody's familiar with it. It's when you have somebody in the short corner and you have 2 deep corners. So it's not like your typical spread alignment. So here, we're going to get in our dunker ball screen right here. I think dunker ball screens are really great off of hedges and off of traps as well. If you're a team that faces a lot of ball screen traps, if you can work in some dunker ball screens and you have the personnel for it, this is a really good action to utilize. So right here, you're going to see the slip off the hedge. He's going to be able to make that bounce pass right into the short roll here, right? And now we're playing 4-on-3, right? We got 2 guys out of the picture. You know, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3 right on the line. So now what this does is this forces this middle defender to make a decision, right? Is he going to commit to the short roll? Is he going to commit to the dunker guy, or is he just going to play 2-on-1? So right here, he commits to this dunker guy. Now the rotation here should probably be from the backside, and this guy rotates down to the dunker. But again, these are really hard rotations to make. And even at your worst here, if this guy just decides he's going to play right in this middle spot, you're still playing 2-on-1. So right now it's just an easy dump off pass right to the dunker spot guy. Okay, so this next one here, this is going to be a concept, another concept off the hedge. I want to talk about the defense here real quick. So Coach Rich, if you were on the call earlier, mentioned at Great Lakes, we trapped all ball screens. So this was a really important part of our ball screen rotations and how we executed on our ball screen defense is we wanted this triangle help, right? So the idea off of this triangle help is if it's a side pick and roll, this guy, the guy that's ball side, is going to take away the obvious swing pass. This top guy is responsible for the short roll, and this backside guy is going to play 2. So here, what they do is they attack this high tag. And how they do this is this screener is just going to pin in on this guy right here, on this high tag. You're able to get the ball out, right? You're able to swing it to the opposite side. We move it to the opposite side of the floor. Now we have a lot of different options again. We're playing 3-on-2 for a second, but we have a lot of different options. So what we could do here is we could just shoot this shot. He stays committed to this low guy, or we can make this one more to the low guy, or we could cut this help. So instead, this defender commits to the swing pass, and by him committing to this swing pass and this hedged big not getting back in time, you're able to create an open pass for the roller off of that sort of pin-in concept. All right. So we're going to get into just 2 other concepts that I want to talk about. So the first one's going to be the veer here. The veer action, to me, I love the veer action. I think it's great. I think a lot of people are very familiar with it. I think it can be ran all the time, especially if you have a really good shooter. I like this action. Like if I'm running a single side ball screen, I'm probably telling them to veer almost every time, especially if the defense is in drop coverage. So what we're going to have here is just going to be your simple, it's just going to be your simple veer action here. So what I like about this is if you watch a lot of college games, they're dragging into this veer. You'll see this guy come off this, right? He doesn't get downhill. He doesn't get really like a full head of steam. And then they swing to this opposite side and they're kind of confused. Like they don't know what to do. And that's where the flow of the offense kind of stops in college, is after that drag. So I think that this is a great way where if you can't get downhill, you're still able to create that same advantage that you want, or a different advantage. So we see right here, he slips the screen, he pins in for this veer action, right? We're just rolling right into a pin down deep corner. Now, and take it back here. I'm sorry. Take it back here. So now we have our drop big right here. They're playing drop coverage on this. Now this big is engaged with the ball handler. Now he just dropped. With that drop big in coverage, it's going to be really hard for him to come back and help on this pin down. And a lot of times what that's going to do is that's going to open up this curl. So as you can see here, that's exactly what happens. He tight curls right here. Big didn't get back into position off the drop. And now we're playing 2-on-1, right? Probably should have passed it here, or went up with the shot. I'm sorry. Probably should have went up with the shot here, but they're still able to get it off the advantage. So now we're going to get in another one. This is a really nice action that I like. This is off an Iverson. So he comes off this Iverson right here. Both guys come off. So we got the first guy coming off the Iverson, and the second guy that set that first Iverson screen on the Iverson cut, following it up. So now we're going to get right into this step up. We get right into this step up. The guy that came off second, he's going to 45 cut. We got our 45 cut right here. And now off of that 45 cut, we're still playing against drop coverage. We're rolling into this pin down. Rolling into our pin down, getting into our veer action. It's the same thing, right? Drop big, can't commit to the curl. With him not committing to the curl, you're left with a wide open shot at the rim. So let's say this big commits to this curl. Let's say he comes up, he's playing the curl, he's in curl protect. If you have a big setting this screen that can pop out and shoot this shot, I'm telling him to pop every time off of this. Because what this is able to do, at least to the short corner, if not, if you got a guy that can shoot a three, tell him to pop to the three. Because if this big comes up for this curl, you're now off of this pop. If you really extend it out, you're going to put that big in another long closeout situation. Or they just switch it and you get your switch. You create your advantage off your switch. You see that finish right there. And then we'll skip this one right here. And we'll go right into this high-low flash. So this high-low flash, this is my last concept. It's a switching concept. Bayern Munich does it really well. They do a really good job attacking the switch with a lot of different principles. So here you're going to see them. You're going to see the defense switch this empty side ball screen. Switches the empty side ball screen right here. So now what this ball handler's job is off of this switch is he needs to dictate a side of the floor. So he keeps his live dribble. He dictates this side of the floor as the side we want this guy to post up at. So off of this, we're now getting a cut from the back side that's going to flash to the middle of the floor. And off of that flash, what we're doing is we're looking for a high-low. So you're going to see this cut from this backside in a second. Got this cut from this backside. It's going to be off the low man's guy as well. So we cut off this backside. We're getting ready for this high-low look right here. What happens here is this defense cheats it. I have another one where they execute it, but the defense cheats it here. But what you're able to do off of that cheat, you got the guy that was in the 45 spacing down in the corner, and you're able to get a wide open three. But the initial look off of this is going to be your flash from the low man's defender to the free throw line extended area, and then you're looking high-low for your big. So now right here, this is going to be the executed one. So it's the same thing, empty side ball screen. We get a switch, right? This time it's from the dunker spot. So now this dunker guy, who would be the first help on this rotation, if there was a drive, he's flashing the middle of the floor. Flashes the middle of the floor right here. Big turns. Now we're looking for this high-low, right? We're looking for this high-low. Off of this advantage, more likely than not, they don't do it here. But more likely than not, what's going to happen is if you get this high-low look, this low man's probably willing to commit, especially if you get it deeper in the middle. You get the high-low look right here. He ends up drawing the foul, and now you're going to the line for 2. This isn't off a switch here, but I like it. It's the same concept. They're trying to attack a mismatch. So here, once again, high-low flash from the weak side defender. From the weak side guy who the low man's defending. And now we're high-low right here. Easy look at the rim. And he makes it. All right, so that's all I got. I know I definitely went over. So I appreciate you guys taking the time and listening to what I had to say. And like I said, thinking that like Zico said, like thinking what I had to say on, I don't even know what day today is. All of them are running together, but I appreciate it, guys. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, we got one question coming in
Yeah,
the
fire
chat
away.
as well, and it's a question we can build in a whole new Zoom call about. I think because it's from Coach Melanik. It's not that the person the question that's it's not that the person who sets the question that's going to be a Zoom call, but it's like if you start a new team and first things you will teach them in pick and roll concepts.
First things that I would teach in pick and roll concepts.
Yeah, are you doing more a walkthrough, playing? How are you laying the drills and concepts if you start a new team tomorrow? What would you do?
Okay, so if I start a new team tomorrow, what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to first off probably take about 15 minutes of film, and it doesn't have to, it would be on a film of a team that we've already had, and we're going to talk about, okay, these are the details. This is how the screener needs to set his screen. This is how the ball handler needs to engage his defender. We're going to get down the details of the screening action to start with before we start to break down the concepts. And then once we start to break down the concepts, we're going to start probably with 3-on-3. We're going to work on attacking the tag, ways to attack the tag. Then we're going to go 4-on-4, and we can do 4-on-4 with a double side. We can do 4-on-4 with a single side, but I'm a big 5-on-5 guy. That's kind of like where the school I'm at now, we do a lot of 5-on-5 stuff. And I think that there's really nothing that teaches stuff like 5-on-5. Obviously you're going to walk through, obviously you're going to talk about the concepts. Obviously you're going to do breakdown drills or breakdown shooting drills, 3-on-3, 4-on-4 to talk about how to read the help. But to me, there's no substitute for 5-on-5. There's no substitute for making game time decisions during practice. It's a great way to get extra reps. And then if you see something you don't like, or if you see an opportunity for the defense, like, hey, there was a high tag here, you should have attacked this high tag, or hey, defense went under, should have flipped this angle of this screen, or there's a switch, should have flashed high-low. We're teaching that real time.
Yeah. So thinking about that and thinking about last week's presentation, you're both saying the opposites, and that's great because every coach has his own opinion on things. Like Liam, for example, said we have to teach concept before precision. Why now you're exactly saying the opposite, and we want to have that details and then go into the concepts, which is great because that's like I value so much, and all you guys sharing information that everybody has his own vision and his own own way of thinking and letting people learn in the teams. So just wanted to point out, like it's real, yeah. It's great having all you guys here with such different visions and not all the same. And then it's like, okay, you truly believe in that vision and that philosophy you have, and it's great seeing you being so like, how do you say that? You're locked in. You're locked in that stuff. Like, and it's
Right.
like everybody does it a little bit different, but like, what's the best? That's
And I can honestly say, like, I haven't been a head coach, so I could go ahead and do that as a head coach one day, and it could be dead wrong, and I might have to go with Liam's way. So that's definitely something that I'm gonna have to think about because I love hearing new ideas too, and I love being able to chew on it and think about the advantages and disadvantages. So I'm happy that you shared that with me. That's definitely something I'm gonna look into.
Yeah. So there's one more question. What do you think about high-low situation if point guard helps from the top and defend the free throw line?
Point guard helps from the
Yeah.
top and
And
defends.
after that, we're gonna close it off.
Okay. So if the point guard helps from the top to defend the free throw line, so what you would do off of that, I think that was, if that's off the, I'm trying to envision it in my head. So
That's more like the last clip you showed, right? In which they cheated.
yeah, that's what I thought too. It was like, the point guard's gonna help, and what you're gonna do is you're gonna look opposite. Or you're gonna be able to make that pass through, and then you're gonna look opposite again. It's basically the pass. The concept of it is, and the concept to really slow it down for your guys and make it simple, is you want to pass where the help came from. So if they overhelp, you pass where the help came from. Does that make sense?
For me, it made perfectly sense,
Okay.
So I think it answers the question of the coach as well, who was answering, who was asking the question. So with all that, I would like to, Chris is, acknowledging your solid session from all of you and from you as well, Connor. So with all of that, I want to thank you all for listening to this one as well. I might not do the 18th due to the fact I might be moving to Belgium, but I have to think about that one. So, but that will be announced on Twitter as well. So, guys, thank you very much for all attending. And if I don't see or speak to you anymore, let's hope and wish that 2021 is a better year for all of us, in many ways and forms, guys. Thank you.